satisfying. Started red as a little lid. Hello! It's been a while. It's been quite a while. It's been a month. Boy, does time sure fly. It seems that the month went by in a flash. So much has happened in that time. But at the same time, it feels like it's been forever since I've last streamed. I had almost forgotten how it worked. Forgotten what my setup looked like. Forgotten what the buttons and shortcuts did. Seems almost a lifetime ago. And yet, here we are, once again. So, a little chat before we get into what we're doing today. I know that it's been a while, and we kind of interrupted our 3-stream background making session. And so that's what we're going to attempt to continue and hopefully finish today. But I admit, I kind of forgot where we left off. And even though it's been a while, on my YouTube channel that has all these Twitch streams archived, it would be 3 streams in a row of just making the background. And so I don't want to make it last. I don't want to have more than just 3 of the same exact thing in a row. I like to keep it different, change it up. So even if we don't finish today, we are going to do something different. So whenever we do something, don't expect it to last 3 streams in a row, more than 3 streams in a row. That being said, it'll be a bit of an interesting thing trying to remember everything we did and remember what I was thinking. I didn't actually look at my last stream, which I probably should have done, to catch up on where we left off, but yeah, we'll improvise. We make it up as we go along. We can do stuff like that. Any other special news I'll probably save until the end, because there's not really a whole lot to report. The family stuff went pretty well, and yeah, it was a much needed set of events, and we'll just leave it at that. So, oh, one last thing. Actually, I'll mention that later. I'll mention that in a few seconds. So we're going to go over to our little background, and we're going to jump right into it. Now listen closely. Try not to talk too much during the little bit, but I was getting impatient with just waiting for a stream to revise this particular piece. So I just went ahead a couple days ago and I just did it myself. It was very quick. You know, I'll just jump to here. The original just had the electric piano in the bass, and then the real piano as the embellishments. And maybe next stream I'll show you next stream I'll start off by showing you the sheet music for this. But I added, as you can hear, the flute, the bass guitar. It's kind of quiet. You might hear it. There it is. The strings. And the chimes. So I added 4 instruments to this. There it is. So you've heard strings, you've heard the bass. It's kind of hard, it's very low. You've heard the flute and you've heard the strings. I'll call it out now in case you notice something a little peculiar. So we're going to jump right into... Now let me try and figure out what exactly we did. So how do we look the rendered view. I remember that now. I remember we were trying to have these semi-transparent, I guess you call them translucent. These translucent colored sheets animate sideways. I remember that. So this was just to get it to look right. Alright, so that'll be part of the animating thing. But I know I was going to do something with the shading. Let's take a look. So we've got our base. It looks like a Barney's kitchen. The thing in front. I need to put some text there. I'll do text. We got the colored background. We have the panels. So let's work on the text first. Even if it's not what I said we'd do last time, let's just jump right into it. So we don't actually need camera view. We'll just do zoom in. And I want to do wireframe. Actually, no, I'm not going to try to embed it onto this. I'm going to just add text by itself. So, how do we do that? Shift A is to add something. Go to text down here. And it appears where our cursor was, so I'm just going to bring it up here by grabbing it with G, zooming in, and then my shortcuts, 9, 1, and 3, remember. R to rotate, Control to make it click to a certain degree, make it 90, so now I can see it better. It's 1 to zoom in, and now, when you click certain things, I may have mentioned this before, when you click certain things, the options on this side right here. Actually, hold on, let me just... Yeah, you can hear me. Okay. Should have checked that. The options on this side start to change. You have these couple that are kind of the most common. And then if I click here, you have a couple different. You have like a... like particle? Yeah, particles. You have physics. Here, you've added constraints. You've added... and now you have a text option. So that's what we're going to be looking at. Because there are some defaults that Blender uses that I'm not a huge fan of. So I'm going to move you to X direction of 0. So now that little dot right there is in the middle. Y, we'll keep you as you are. Okay, let's go through our text. So we got our I skip most of these because I don't know what they do. I'm looking for only a particular things. So we're going to come back to this font here. We're going to go to size, sheer. Sheer is if you want to be fancy. It's like manually controlled italics. You can go from 0, well, -1 to 1. And again, hold down shift to go slowly. Versus regular, hold in shift, go slowly. It's like a manually controlled italics. So you can make it, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but you can animate these values. So like 0 seconds, it starts at -1. In 10 seconds, actually I'll try that now. We're at frame 1. So down here it shows you what frame you're on, shows you what frame to start on, shows what frame to end on. So if I play, it goes from frame 0 or 1 to 250, which is right around here. If I press space bar, it starts to play. There's nothing animated, so nothing's happening. And just shift left arrow key to go back to the beginning. So if I wanted to, and we're kind of a sneak peek to animating, if I wanted to do this, I can actually just hover over the value, right click, insert keyframe. Now a keyframe is what they call it, and we'll get into this later when we do the animating, but the keyframe is what they call it when you freeze or take a snapshot of that position, either position in space or position along a number line or a spectrum of value or whatever. In this case, it's position on the number line, -1 to 1. Keyframe at -1. So now it's yellow. Yellow means keyframe. To be more specific, if I'm on frame 1 right now. So if I just click the right arrow key, or if I manually type in 2 to go to the next frame, notice that this is no longer yellow, it's green. So now going back and forth, see the color changes, but also this little guy appears. So now I clicked it, now they're both. And yet here's 3. And now you can unclick it to make it green again. So yellow means, green. Green means that value has a keyframe somewhere in the timeline. At some point from 1 to 250, that value has a keyframe somewhere in that time. Yellow is when you're on the frame that has the keyframe that is keyed. And here's a little shortcut if you want. Instead of right-clicking, click Insert Keyframe, you could just click this little diamond and fill it in. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to frame 10. Now I'm going to drag. Now orange, that's a new color. Orange means it's not keyframed. It has at least one keyframe, and the current value is not matching the most recent keyframe. In this case, the most recent one happens to be the only one, and the only one happens to be set to a value of -1. So if I drag it to 1, it's orange. So yes, it has a keyframe at frame 1. Last keyframe was at -1, so this is 1, it's different. That's why it's orange. But if I, again, press the diamond or right-click, back to 1. So now, if I go to frame 1, it goes -1. I'm watching this value right here. If I go to 10, it goes to 1. Now if I go to -1, or to 1, and I go frame by frame, watch what happens to this value right here. Blender automatically determines how to transition from one position to the other. In most cases, it does so linearly. But you can set different defaults to do different things. And now if I go to frame, let's say 20, again green, because this is the value of the previous keyframe, but it's not at that frame. Back to -1, it's orange because now it's different. And now another shortcut. We showed you right-click, click Insert Keyframe. We showed you click the diamond. Now if I just click the letter I is an igloo. That's also a shortcut for keyframe that doesn't use the mouse. That's 3 different ways to keyframe right there. So now if I go back to frame 10, and now I go frame by frame, I'm looking at this number to see how it goes. Now, you may have noticed, but I'm going to go to frame 1, I'm going to go all the way to 20, frame by frame, and I want you to notice, be on the lookout for any differences in the pattern of how the numbers change. So here we go, take a look. Now, if you were paying really close attention, you would have seen that the numbers going up and down between 1 and 10 were different numbers than going up and down between 10 and 20. And this is something that took me a while to get accustomed to incorporating. The numbers would be identical if we started at frame 0. But by default, we start at frame 1. So if we wanted the numbers to be identical, we'd have to go to frame 1 to 11, and then 11 to 21. Or 0 to 10, and 10 to 20. But now 1 to 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 values. Now 10 to 20, you have 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That's 11 values. So since you are one extra frame apart, Blender automatically creates that linear, hang on. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I think they're doing a leaf blowing or something outside my window. It's kind of annoying. But between 10 and 20, that's 11 steps. And so it's still linear, it's just a different slope of the line. And I think we can, again, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but why not? In animation, I'm going to actually jump to a different view, to the graph editor, because we're going to see a graph and we can edit it. So graph editor. And now if we zoom in, I just select the points and I press again, just like in layout. You want to hone in on something, you press period on the number pad to make it fill up the proportion of the screen. Animating, these little dots are the keyframes, and if you press period, they will adjust to the screen. Here we go, period. Boom. Now you notice this goes up, this goes down. This is at -1, this is at +1. This is your graph of the animated value. This represents that number on the number line that represents the shear of the text, which is what we were just manipulating. Shear of the text. And you notice up here you have 0 or 1 lines up with this guy, 10 lines up with this guy, and 20 lines up with this guy. This represents your animation. It's nearly linear, but you notice that it's not a point, again, period. It's not a point, it's got these two little handles on it. This is what you call a Bezier curve. And Bezier curve is just 2 points, a line in between, but these points represent how much influence that direction has. So what that means is this little line here, this little line with a circle, influences how this part of this line acts. So if I were to stretch it out more, I'm going to stretch it out by actually scaling it out. Again, S, just like we scale objects, scaling objects back and forth, you can scale. Oh, and if you click the object, the keyframes for that object appear, and if you click out of it, they disappear. So you're always looking at the keyframes of whatever you're clicking. So make sure you have the right thing selected here before you start messing with keyframes for the object you don't mean to mess with. So if I were to click this and scale out, I just changed how slowly or how quickly it shifts from 1 to -1. It shifts from leaning to the right to leaning to the left. I made it start slow and then speed up. Or I could do the other way. I can have it like kind of take off and then slow down as you get later on. Or I can have it kind of go fast and then slow down and hover and then kind of sink back down. So you can manipulate a lot of how things move and are animated by just manipulating these curves. And if you wanted, you can rotate to make them kind of skewed. You can G, grab, to make them look strange. You can scale to make smaller. You can rotate, grab. You can do any of that. There's a lot of flexibility. But we'll get to that when we actually start animating this scene. So right now, front view, and now let's actually see it in action. So I'm going to press space, and we're going to watch it go. Here we go. Oh, it's quick. So you know what I'm going to do? These dots represent the existence of keyframes. So you notice here it says shear. Shear is a property that we know we are keyframing. These dots represent, hey, yes, there are keyframes here. So what I can do is I'm actually going to take this. Well, we know this is positive 1, this is negative 1. So I'm going to take you, both, and just like you can duplicate an object with Shift D, I'm going to duplicate these keyframes. Shift, hold on, let me zoom out here so you can see it. Shift D, just drag over to 30 and 40. And now I can take this, Shift D, 50 and 60. And now you have, and now this is a really cool way of just having a repeating animation kind of constantly going for you. I was off by 1, so I'm going to grab, move it over. So now if we go back, or we can stay in here, just adjust our camera view here, zoom in, start at 0, or you can just drag either way, and here we go. Oh, that's another thing I should mention. It starts at 1, but you can drag to 0. So if you're not careful, the default starts at 1 and you can drag to 0. You may have animation starting a frame off from where you want. Notice that this is lighter gray, this is darker gray. That's because the animation, when it's actually processed, will start at 1. Since you can drag to 0 and you start animating there, anything you do on frame 0 will be ignored by Blender. So make sure you don't have anything important happening before this line turns lighter gray. Or you can just start it at 0. You cannot start it before 0. But I started at 1. So now, let's take a look at the animation. Here we go. Looks kind of like a bad high school clip art kind of animation kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these and I'm going to scale them. Now what I'm going to do is, so individual centers, I'm going to select that. Now I forget if I explain what these do. A bounding box, whoops, hang on. Bounding box just means kind of the center of whatever you've selected. In this case, the center is kind of somewhere around here. It's like the average space of all this. So it'll expand inward and outward from this point. 2D cursor, there's no real 2D cursor in this space, so that doesn't really apply. Otherwise, it would expand and collapse from wherever you place the cursor as their center point. Individual centers are very helpful when you're manipulating keyframe Bezier curves, because it will treat each point as its own center of rotation scaling. So if you notice before, if I scale, see that dotted line? It's pointed to where it is the center. So now it's all expanding and contracting from that dotted point area. Individual centers, scale, all expanding and contracting from their own place. I don't know why these aren't selected. Why are these not? And if you have something that doesn't quite look right, like you can tell, these are expanding. These are not. So what I'm going to do as a global check, I'm just going to right click, handle type. These are little handles. Handle type, I want, let's do interpolation mode, Bezier. So interpolate is just how does it calculate how to get from one point to the next, one keyframe to the next. I said it was linear, but it's not exactly linear. It's Bezier. So by selecting everything and clicking Bezier, you're just kind of resetting, reaffirming that it is in fact a Bezier curve. It doesn't mean it'll automatically get handles. I don't know why these 4 are missing them, but I'm just going to do handle type. Let's do aligned. All right, let me zoom in. Actually, hang on. Zoomed in too much. Let's zoom in you 3 and you guys. Let's take you 2, you 3. Now for some reason, so I'm just going to try something. I don't know what's going to work. I'm just going to click and drag. That didn't work. Undo that. I can't undo that. Why can I not undo that? Well, I know where it goes. There we go. Okay, okay. For some reason that works. So now I'm going to drag to 1 and 50. So that is at 1 and that is at 50. 1 and 50. Now I'm going to kind of rotate to be flat and shrink until it kind of matches the rest. And I don't know why the rest of them are not behaving, but I'm just going to try to drag. And now, sometimes you have to do this kind of manual effort. It's not always easy, not always sunshine and rainbows. Very occasionally you have Blender kind of acting up on you. But now I should be able to expand them all, and I missed these 2, so let's do that. See, now I'm rotating them all, so. But yeah, that's basically how it works. So then if you do this, and I go back to here, it goes, it's doing something winking, something very weird, but yeah, you can just animate that however you wish. So I'm going to delete all these keyframes by just X, delete keyframes, and we're going to get out of animation, and we're actually going to go back to set this to 0. That was a very interesting tangent, but I forgot how often we do tangents here. Alright, so paragraph alignment, here's what I'm looking for. So here's the origin, this little dot right here. Here's the text. I don't like that it's at the bottom left, because I like things are symmetrical, and I often place text in very particular places. And like most objects, you manipulate them by controlling where their origin is. So for me, it'd be nice if the origin, which is supposed to be the center of the object, actually is the center of your text. So alignment, it's left aligned, I'm going to make it center. It's at the bottom, but it's now centered. And now vertical, top baseline, top center. Boom. 2 little settings. Center, center on alignment. Pretty self-explanatory. But yeah, so now the origin of the text object is now the center of the actual text. So now we can go up to our font. Now, font is where you just control whatever fonts you want. And you can open up a folder, or you can pick a drop down. I'm gonna do something real quick. Give me 1 second. Oh, so you won't be able to see that anyway. So when you click that folder, where am I? Here I am. So when you click that folder icon, yeah, it doesn't show up, but a new window shows up and it just default opens to where all your fonts are stored. And that's usually on your computer drive under the Windows folder. It's not Microsoft, it's under Windows. and there's a fonts folder in Windows, and it just opens up that one. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the ability to give you a preview of what the font you select looks like before you actually select it. I know Microsoft Word does that all the time. Like if you hover over a font, it'll temporarily change what you selected to look like it, so you know whether you want to commit to it or not. But a lot of these fonts, most of them I think, are identical to what you find in Microsoft Word. So I just open up Microsoft Word, type my text, find a font there, because it's easier to change, easier to preview, and then once I like it, I find the same one in Blender and I just use it. And most of the time it's pretty accurate. So I'm going to go to, let's try something, let's do, where are you, there you are. The one that we're never supposed to use, the one that everyone says never use that again. The one that all throughout high school and middle school, and even elementary school sometimes, you wish you could get away with using and never can. I'm referring to, of course, Chiller. You are never allowed to use this one, but I will use it. So there's my Chiller text. Chiller regular. We could make Chiller bold, Chiller italic. You could make italic, but then you can also shear or shear back and forth. I'm going to keep it at 0. Size. Now, size is kind of redundant with scale. You can change the scale, and size doesn't matter. Change the size, and scale is unaffected. It'll be easy to show here. So right now we're at scale 1, size 1. Change the size, scale doesn't change, just the dimensions. Change the scale, size doesn't change, just the dimensions. I can get rid of both. So let's keep it at Chiller. Let's keep it at Chiller. I think I like doing that. And then, just like these objects down here, you can assign a material. You can assign material to the text. So first, before I do that, I'm going to move it into place. I want to keep it on the 0 line, so I'm holding the middle mouse button to keep it locked to the y-axis. And then I'll hold down Shift when I get around here to kind of move it slower, right about there. And now press 1 to move it down, middle button, or I can press G and then Z to lock it to Z-axis, kind of move it around in front of that yellow bar right there. And now, 0. So already that's a bit too big. And if I move it in the Y, it'll hide behind. So that's kind of the front of it, right there. That's the front of it right there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a modifier to the text, because as you can see, it's a 2D thing. Everything else here is 3D. I mean, these are... That's a plane, that's 2D, but the text, I want that to be 3D, because that doesn't move around and disappear from the screen every so often. That's something permanent. I want it to look like it actually has something to it, so I'm going to add a modifier. Now, if you remember, modifiers are these little wrench icon, and they can do a whole bunch of stuff. We have a modifier for something. I think we've had a modifier for something. We haven't had a modifier. We showed you the modifier for the subsurf, and then the mirror, and then other things. I forget that we applied them. But yeah, I'm going to do a modifier for the text. And this one, I'm going to do solidify, because I want to turn a 2D object into 3D. Basically just adding depth to it. So now if I look vertically, it actually has some depth to it. And here's how I can manipulate it. I can make it thicker or thinner in either direction. So I'll make it kind of around half the thickness of this yellow thing. Maybe a little less. And clamp Clamp, you just kind of experiment to see what it is, because I'm not exactly sure what it... That's like, I guess, clamping how the distribution of thickening. Let's see where we're going. Offset, which is like offsetting how it is. I'm not going to mess with that. I don't really care about any of those. So I think that's good enough for me. So now, the rule of thumb, I may be repeating myself, but the rule of thumb is you don't apply modifiers unless you need to. Because when you apply it, you are setting all these, you're fixing all these settings in stone. You can't say, oh, well, I need to make this a little bit thinner after all. Well, if you apply it, you can't do that anymore. It's a lot harder, because all these settings disappear. It's applied. Click it. Well, I guess I can apply it to text, but oh well. In normal cases, you could. So I'm going to leave that as is. You can see it's kind of thinner. I wonder if there's a crease. Nope. Outer crease. Nope. Rim. Nope. Clamp. I don't really like how that looks. A little convex. Nope. That goes to 0. Nothing really else to add to that. It's a little bit tall. So I'm going to move you down to here, and I'm going to shrink you like that. Actually, no, I'll shrink you totally. Right there. And now how's that look? That's kind of... That's within the frame. The frame is right here. Where's the camera? Here's the camera. Frame is right there. And I'm going to show you another little way to make this kind of a little easier to see. Camera, I'm going to go to Passpart. I don't know if it's Passpart out or Passepartout. It was like a French pronunciation. But that's basically the difference between what's in frame and out of frame. So I'm going to make it completely opaque. So now you can't see anything that is out of the frame of the camera. And that makes it easier to see if it's in frame or out of frame. So I'm going to just leave that in for now. I'm going to actually move this. Because it's thicker, I can move it to sort of intersect. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with having two solid objects intersect in Blender. They're just empty shells, and Blender doesn't break or anything when they're like that. It's a good, actually, I'd say it's a good way to guarantee that there's no, that something looks like it's attached to something by kind of overlapping it a little bit. So now I'm going to do that, and now when you edit an object, you can edit its points. When you edit text, you just have a cursor and you can just type however you wish. Whatever you want. I had completely forgotten to consider what we actually want to say here. So, what do we want to say here? What would we want to say? This is a stage. This is meant to be another background. This is a more peppy, excited, we'll call it, well, I need to have my name in there. We can call it Poison Tongues. Nope. And I just noticed, see, it's easier to see now, it cuts off a little bit. So I'm actually going to shrink it some more until, well, I'll shrink it and then I'll move it up a bit. There. And if I wanted to, I could always shrink it like this, scale Z, and then I can just increase the character spacing or increase the word spacing. Line spacing, there's only one line here. So I'm gonna keep it as is until we figure out what we're gonna say. So let's see. Poison tongue. Poison tongue's what? Poison tongue's stage. So it's got a stage. I'll be on the stage. You got the colors passing through. You have a very peppy song going on the background. It'll be the. I can't say anything without making it sound creepy and serial killeristic. Poison Tongue's Playhouse. That sounds like a horror game. Maybe I'm just thinking of Mr. Hop's Playhouse. Playtime. That's like fun time. You know what? We'll just do. Carousel de la Poison. No, it would be de la, it would be du. Because that's French, I think. And de la means whatever follows is feminine, and du means whatever follows is masculine. So it would be du. Or de la. De la sounds nicer. More syllables. But you know what? I'm going to leave it as... Nope. Bunch of this. We'll leave it as is. We'll change the colors, but the exact text we'll wait on. And I'll open up to you guys. Any comments on when this video gets uploaded to YouTube, to the YouTube channel? Any comments on any suggestions? What you want this text to say? Because I'm honestly out of ideas. I'm at a loss for that. So I'll peek in on that later. We'll save this. Now we need to add a material to it. So over to materials. What do we have so far? Floor, stage body, stage front, stage top. We can make it checkerboard. That looks psychedelic. Let's not do that one. And we can do transparent. We have our wall. You know what? Let's make a new material. Make a brand new material. We'll call it. We'll call it signage. Call it text, color, and we already talked about the shader, so let's go back to shading, and we will highlight the text. We will zoom in. We'll go to our color material. We'll do a material view. And what do we want to do? I think this would be a good opportunity to... I just remembered. An idea that I had for last time. I just remembered. I'll do it here, and then we'll do it where I was gonna do it. So, looking back at other materials, we have our colors going into the texture. We have our regular colored texture. We also have our slightly transparent texture. Now we're going to have a little something called emission. Now here, we tried emitting it before by having this emission a different color. We're going to emit a different way this time. In a way that can glow. So we're going to add a shader. And whenever I want to combine this basic color settings panel with what's actually output, I always have to do a mix shader to mix it with something else. And this factor says, okay, you're doing half of what this says and half of what that says, or all of what this says, none of what this says, or none of what this says, all of what that says. So either way, and again, almost every setting in Blender can be keyframed. So almost any setting can be animated. And that's the beauty of Blender. You can animate pretty much anything. You can animate transparency. You can animate alternating between colors. You You can animate so many different things. So flexible. So I'm going to add another shader called Emission. And again, it just goes right there. So now it's doing half of this, half of that. Now if I wanted to do all emit and none of that, I could just delete this whole thing and just have this emission go straight to the output. But I like having it in a mix so I can more finely tune exactly how much it emits and how much of the real color shines through. So what color do I want it to emit? Let's look at our camera view. So contrast, we don't want purple, we don't want blue, and we don't want yellow. What about, it's gonna glow. What about a nice red or blue or green? Something dark. Let's try a dark red. Let's go with a dark red. So I'm gonna select red. That's full red, no green, no blue. And now that looks like bloody writing. But it's gonna glow. It's appropriate. And now here is our other red. And now we're full shader, so let's do 0.5. And now I can increase this to how much I want. I think maybe 10 is good enough. So now if I look at it rendered, ooh, that looks cool. That might be a little too much glow though. So let's go to 5. It's a bit better. It's a bit better. Zooming in. A bit better. What if we go to 1 like the default had? It's a slight glow. It's not too bright. And again, we're not doing full emission. Here's full emission now. So I think I'm gonna go full emission. And you know what I'm gonna do? If we do this, there's no emission whatsoever, so it's dark. So this gives me an idea. Throughout the whole background, we can have this, let's say go to 3, and we can have this animate, just like the text going back and forth, we can have this pulsing. Just by animating this keyframe value back and forth. And if that looks familiar, you probably see that waiting screen in a bit of a different light. Because now, different light, but now you know how I did it. I just took those texts and I animated an emission value back and forth. Over and over for the patient's friends, and then the individual panels that go around the edge, I just did like a glow and a retreat, but I staggered them along the timeline to go in order. So now you know exactly how that happened. So let's do a 2. And we'll go full emission. Now, I want to know, is this going to be the brightest it's going to be? If we make it a 3, and if we make it a 5, not bad. I would say not bad, not bad. That's not unintelligible. Let's try an actual sentence. Ooh. Okay. Oh, that looks so cool. Points if you get the reference. But yeah, that would be maximum brightness, and you can still kind of tell what the letters are. The glow of the emission doesn't meld them all together. It doesn't take away the distinct edge of the letters. And that's really what I was worried about. Now, I think that's mostly because we are against the wall. So if we were to move it in the Y direction, kind of away, so now we're kind of far away from it. A little bit, yeah, I don't really like how that looks. Alright. Let's move you up a bit more. Okay. Now that's not actually going to be the thing that stays here. I'm just going to do that. So that's our text. It's going to look amazing. Alright, I'm going to get rid of that past part too, because we don't really need that anymore. I'm going to put it back to half opacity, just so I can see the rest of it. The other emission thing. So, if I remember, this didn't look very good by itself, because this didn't have a whole lot of emission to it. But if I make each of these emit the color slightly, it's very deep red. Now I can't remember if I'm just undoing what I did before. I feel like I am. So that's what I was going to do. I remember now. There we go. Yeah. So I was going to do the exact same thing here that I did with the text. I was going to, for each of these colors, add an emission node so I can control. Because here, you just emit the color, but it is a constant brightness. You can't change the brightness of the emission. But I want to. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'll get started a couple of these. We're coming up on the hour, so I'm going to do a couple of these, and we're going to cut for a water refill break, and then we're going to come back to it. So I'm going to do a mix. Just click in the middle. Do another emission. Copy the color. And you don't have to copy the color. Do whatever you want. I'm going to do this. Do mix shader. I'm going to keep it mixed. I think the problem before was that it emitted either too much or too little. I couldn't remember. Maybe too much. So I'm going to keep it at half. I'm going to lower the strength. I'm going to increase the strength to see much. It's kind of hard to tell by itself. I think maybe if you do half, still get the different colors. If we do half emission and half fader, or one fader, half emission, that should be good enough. We'll just keep the defaults, and we'll see how that goes. So we're just doing the same thing. Mix, emission, copy the color. We're at 1.5. Yep, don't need to change anything. Mix. Whoops. Emission. Emission. Now, if you want to be extremely organized, which is not something that I've done, but if you want to be super organized, you could write down a list of all your hex codes right here to know which hex code is which color, so you don't have to find an object that already is that color to figure out what the hex code is. You just keep a running list of what they are. I'm not usually that organized. Because normally, the way that I just look at another... Oh, that's already fixed. Yeah, that's good. Now we have cyan. Do a mix. And we do emission. Cyan. 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 Whatever you want to call it. And now violet. The only one that's left behind. And that looks pretty cool. But because that's emitted, I think we had a light somewhere. Yeah, we had that light. I forget if that was just for experiment or if we wanted... Oh, right. That was because we didn't want to emit. We wanted to highlight. But here's the problem. So the problem was this light is shining from front to back through the transparency. But it looked better shining back to front through the transparency. Because the light was coming through here towards us, camera, but it was being altered by the transparency on the way. Here, the light is being altered. Pure light's being altered and then being affected by the color. It just looks strange. Again, we're just trying something out, so I'm going to delete that light. Looks not too bad, but now I think I need to increase the opacity of all of these guys. Instead of 0.25, let's make it 0.35. 0.4. Half. That's 1. That's 2. Hold on. 3. 4, 5, 6, 7. So now, hold on. Come on, there we go, there we go. So now, if we take a look, this is supposed to be the white. Doesn't actually change a whole lot. But if I remember, white never was supposed to. This is violet. It definitely adds a more violet. So I think these colors might be a bit too strong of emission. So what if we do half emission for all these? I don't like that. It's just making everything darker. I want it to be bright. So I think instead of reducing the emission, we just continue to increase the opacity of these guys. So we'll make you, instead of 0.5, let's make you 0.7. Might be a little too much, but I don't think so. I don't think so. Seven, drag across. That's enough. That's enough of a color shift, I think. And a lot of animating is really just building what you're going to animate and then making sure it all acts the way you want it to. So it's a lot of trial and error. But yeah, that does look a lot clearer. Reddish tone, bluish tone. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot better. It's a lot easier to see. So let's put you off to the side, put you off to the side. Let's do this. Just trying to keep a little semblance of organization here. So we have the proper colors for the back. We have the light here. This is kind of brightened. So now I think what I'm gonna do is go to the world. I'm gonna up brightness of the world just a tiny bit, a little brighter. And then I'm gonna go again to the part 2. So this is everything that we see in fully rendered version. That's what we got. So now I'm going to do a check. Oh, we're at the hour. Okay, so first I'm going to take a quick break. So we're going to go over to... Yeah, so we're going to take a quick water break, about 5 minutes, and we'll be back to show you the rendering side of things, and the compositor, which is going to be fun. Alright, let's take a quick break. See you in a bit. And we have returned! Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Am I coming through? Yes, I am. Awesome. So, where were we? Ah, yes. Want to take a check. So we rendered our view, but it'll only give us so much. So we're actually going to go to our, not rendering, but compositing. Now what's compositing? Well, right now it's nothing. It is a empty screen. In shading, we used nodes. What am I select? Oh, the spotlight. In shading, we use nodes. In animating, those are called, I think those are called nodes. Compositing, we want to use nodes. So, a little callback to earlier. We went through all these settings one by one, and there was one particular setting about passes. We went to passes, and we had this denoising data checkbox, even though we had a denoising section. Here's where that comes into play. This denoising section is the old way of denoising your image. So we don't use it. We use the newer way, which gives you a lot more control, a lot more settings than what just is here. Actually, no, I take that back. This has more settings, but there's another way that's a lot more effective at denoising. But it needs data from your scene in order to work. The data that relates to denoising normally isn't sent to the compositor. This checkbox ensures that, yes, don't forget to bring this data along with you. So now we go to compositing, we use nodes. And now you look. Noisy image, denoising normal, denoising albedo, denoising dead, denoising. All these denoising things normally aren't sent over. So if we uncheck denoising, they'll disappear. They're not options, they're not usable. So we're going to pass denoising data. So now these are all passed into this compositor. That's why they call it passing it. So, what is a compositor? Compositor is like, it plays, in the way I see it, it plays two roles. It tells Blender how to render your image. It also tells you what to do to the image after it is rendered, or while it's rendered. Let me demonstrate. I'm going to add, same way that we add shaders in shading, Shift A. I'm going to add a, where are you? Color. No, not color. Filter, there we go. Filter, denoise. And this denoise panel is what uses the data that you passed to the compositor. So if you notice, there's an image. It goes straight to the composite. Unfiltered, unchecked, raw, with all the noise that you already have. So, you pass the image, not the noisy image, the image. The noisy image is for something different. And I would guess what it is, but I know it's not the image you need to pass, because otherwise this would probably say noisy image. I think noisy image is if you want to have a copy of just the noise, so you know exactly what to take out, rather than just trying to figure out where the noise is computationally, which is what most people tend to do. You don't usually have a preset idea of where your noise is going to be. made as a separate reference picture. Otherwise, that might be what you put here. But the normal, you see purple, purple, color coding, denoising normal to normal. And then albedo to albedo. Not the possessive undead one. It's a color term, albedo. References. So, normally that'd be enough to denoise your image. So let's see what happens if you don't do that. So let's see everything is ready to go. It's all denoised. If we render, no, if we composite. Now render is, you can click render, render image. I just use a shortcut, F12, function 12. So if I click that, it'll probably open in a window and you won't be able to see it unless I switch over to it. So I'm going to try to finagle some fancy stuff. So hold tight. Yeah, you don't see that, so let's say let me just adjust the studio real quick. Where are you, render? Must be an option somewhere. It would stink if it wasn't actually an option. Blender render, why is that not selectable? It's showing as an option, but I can't select it. That's unfortunate. What if I try this again? Oh, okay, there we go. Blender render. Blender render. Alright, so let's try that again. Let's try this one more time. So I'll re-render it, and then I'll really quickly switch over to it so you can see it rendering. There we go. So you see these squares. It's rendering one square at a time. That's because it's using the one GPU that my computer has. If you see like a whole bunch of squares, it's doing all the different processing units of your CPU, which taxes your computer more and doesn't have, you're bypassing the whole reason of having a GPU in the first place. But the size of the square, we made it a big size. When we set our panel size to 512, and I'll show you that in a second, that size of that rendering square is what we were controlling. I think this to 512 pixels by 512 pixels was just the more efficient size. There's some science behind it, I'm not sure. But this is our rendered image, and you can see this kind of grainy kind of look. That's the noise. That's, I mean, these are the pixels, but within the pixels, the grainy kind of squares, that is the noise. Even in a solid color, you still see little tiny noisy squares. That is the noise that we're talking about. There's not a whole lot, honestly. There's not a whole lot of noise here. But that is because we jump over to here. We had in our initial layout, sampling, 50 samples, which is pretty decent. Now if we reduce that to, say, 10 samples, and now if we re-render with just 10 samples, it should be much noisier. So let's close out the render window and then Render one more time. Hopping on over. One square at a time. So now this is what you call rendering an image. Now when you do a still image, you just got to do this one time. When you animate, you saw how quickly 20 frames went. It has to animate each frame individually like this. It took, what, 27 seconds to render this image. And let's say there are, say you have 100 frames in your animation. So you had to render 100 of these, 27, about 30 seconds each. That's 50 minutes. That's almost an hour. Did I do that math right? 100 frames, 30 seconds each, 2 frames a minute. 100 frames is 50 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, I think I did that right. Yell at me if I'm wrong. But yeah, so let's zoom in. You can see that right? Yeah, let's zoom in and try to find. Oh, see, it's much all over the place. It's see, now you're even getting some gray seeping into the purple. And some purple and gray mixing. There's a lot. Oh, this looks horrible. It's all grainy, and that's all the noise. So we're going to keep it at 10 samples. We're going to keep it at 10 samples. And I'm going to, instead of increasing the samples, which again increases render time, I'm going to go to the Compositor, and we're going to use the denoised image. Just that one little change. So now, if we render, and when you see it zoomed in like that, Blender render window shows up somewhat minimized and very zoomed in. So all I'm doing is maximizing the window, and I press, if you're zoomed in, you just press home to get this kind of overall view. And now watch up here, Normally you have the second, and you're done. Now you have compositing, initializing execution. That means it's now looking at the compositor and doing what it says, denoising. So as long as that's moving, check the noise. Bam, you see that? Did you see that? It's all gone. Let's do that one more time, just because it's so much fun. Let's render again, and now we'll watch. This time, we will remain zoomed in on the squares. And this is how powerful, with just 10 samples, powerful the rendering images, the rendering tool is. How grainy that image is. Once we get to the finished tiles. Okay, compositing. Now watch the magic. And boom. Look at how crystal clean that is. Now that took 42 seconds. 42 seconds for 10 samples with a denoiser. Remember that, 42 seconds. Let's try to achieve that same level of crispness without the denoiser and with just increasing sample size. So let's not get rid of the denoiser, just do this image sampler. And now we'll increase samples to 100. 200 even. I'm that confident. So now, render. now you'll notice it takes a lot longer for each square to render. Not as fast, because each square is being kind of, a very brief snapshot of it is one sample. And then it takes another brief snapshot, the second sample, and another brief snapshot. And then it kind of merges all those snapshots together. Now, just like in data analysis, the more samples you have, the better and more refined your results will be. Same thing with this. 10 snapshots of guessing how all the light interacts with the matter and objects, and how the light bounces off different surfaces, and how it reflects and refracts. One guess is not going to get you much. 2 guesses, a little better. 10 guesses, not that great. 200 guesses. Now let's zoom in. This is already the final copy. It's close. It is close. But even at 200 samples, it's still a little grainy, still a little noisy. So 200 samples with noise is not as efficient as 10 samples with a denoiser. Now look at our time. 1 minute, 21:30, 20 seconds. Last time it was 42. We added almost 40 seconds to get a less quality image. So now we understand the value of a denoiser versus just higher samples. You get a better image and you save 40 seconds. That's why the denoiser is so important, to understand how it works and to pretty much make it a staple. And whenever you're Blender animating something, just add a denoiser. But you got to make sure to pass the denoising data over to your compositor. Otherwise, you'll have nothing to work with. So if I did that now when everything's set up, there's nothing to pass. It won't work. It'll just go image in, image out with nothing done to it. And put it back on, reconnected. So now we can actually bring our sample rate back down. Where are you? There we go, back down. We could do 10, but I like 50. It's better than 10, but still not so much that it takes forever to do. So it's the combination of more than 10 plus the denoiser gives a pretty decent image. So now, here's another little thing. In our model, we have this wall, and this wall is the only thing that, well, no, we have the text and the wall that both glow. Here's another way we can do that. If we look at our rendered image, it's kind of glowing, a little bit, but that's really just the light of the text reflecting off of this yellow surface that it's next to. And remember, this is the 200 sample one, so it's still a little grainy. But this isn't really glowing or pulsing or anything, because it's just pure emission. There's nothing to reflect off of except other emitted surfaces, which don't cause any glowing effect. So now we're going to do something that I think is going to be a little overkill. We're going to add another filter, the glare filter. And the glare, we're going to impact the image that goes into the denoiser. Because if you put it afterwards, you denoise, you clean up the image, and then you might do some more stuff to it, which will introduce more noise. You do everything manipulation you want to the image, and then you denoise the product of that to clean it up at the very end. So denoiser always goes right at the end, right before the composite. Oh, and by default, let's see, where are you? by default, post-processing, compositing is checked. It means telling Blender, yes, use the compositor and use the sequencer, which we'll get to later. If this for any reason is unchecked, and you don't know why your compositor is not having an effect, make sure that's checked. It should be on by default, and this should be closed by default. But just in case, if you need to troubleshoot or anything, there you go. Okay, so now, what is the glare? We have ghosts, we have streaks, we have fog glow, and we have simple star. If you want a glow, now let me go over to you. So now you see me. You see my background. It's a solid two circles that are ringing, and they're aglow. So they are two circles with just pure emission components. And now there's no other objects for them to glow on. So they have this glare node applied to them. That kind of fuzzy outline that makes it look like it's glowing. That's what we're going to achieve here. So that's what we're going to do. So, how do we do it? Well, that's a fog glow. This just tells you the quality. I just say, if not set to high quality, the effect will be applied to a low-res copy of the source image. So I just set that to high by default. Doesn't hurt. Doesn't cost you any performance or time. Now mix. Mix is, as it says, a mixture of pure glowing and the unglowed image. This just helps determine how much you're glowing. Size tells you how big the glow is going to be. I'm going to make that a 7. Actually, I'm going to make it a 9, which is the highest it can go, just to demonstrate what it does. And I'll mix to fully processed, because I just want to really emphasize the glow to show where it does, and then we'll scale it back later. And threshold, how bright does the image, does an individual pixel have to be for you to apply this glare? So any pixel under less than 1 brightness will be ignored by the glare node. So to go overkill, we're turning that to 0. So every pixel in this entire image that is glowing will have a glow effect applied to it. Again, this is going to be overkill. Let's see what it looks like. And render. Now switching over to show you the render. Now we're just going to watch. Because we already know it's a 50 sample, it's going to be denoised, but before it gets denoised, it's going to be glowed. So as soon as you see it says compositing, initiating execution up in here on this top level, start paying attention. But until then, you just relax. Just take care. Have some fun. Alright. And okay, here we go. Pay close attention. I'm getting nervous, guys. Whoa. That looks like I need a new glasses prescription. That just got all fuzzy. So now, each of these individual squares is glowing. Let's say the glow from this one is mixing with the glow of that one, so it all just looks fuzzy when all the glows are all mixed together. And now these glows are all kind of fuzzy. So we're actually going to change our settings to go back. So now we want half and half. So let's do 7, threshold of 1. Let's tone it down a little bit. Let's try that one. And this is again just another thing that takes time and patience, because it takes time to render, but rendering it is the only way to see the effect of anything in the compositor. Well, no, that's not true. But it does give you the most accurate look. There is a way to show kind of a sneak preview, but it's difficult to manipulate your view of it in that viewport, and I've always had trouble with it. So I just render one image. It's an extra 2 minutes. I'm not counting seconds or anything. It's not that bad. How you guys doing? Zoom in, let's take a look here. See what we got. And that's it. It was finished. So there's almost no change to here, no change to the background. And here had almost no glow either. So that glow almost didn't really do anything. Now the glow node isn't really for like a solid wall that just glows. So we're gonna try a streak instead. Now again, I'm not gonna touch these settings. I'm just gonna see what the default looks like. And then we may end up, I have a feeling we're gonna end up not using any glare node option whatsoever. Because the only thing I want to glow is the text, and the text already has that yellow background to create the glow itself. We don't need the back end to glow for us. But I really just wanted to show you the denoising node, and then how I achieved my glowing effect with the glowing node. And make sure you put it before the denoising node. This is just a quick little side note demonstration. But I'm thinking we might I'm tossing around a few ideas in my head of how to finish this. So here you see these are streaks. It's kind of faint, but they're streaks upward and downward. And if you go over here, you see streaks sideways. Now they're at right angles to each other. Streaks here. And so each glowing point is kind of streaking in different directions. So those are the streaks. It looks kind of forced to me. I don't really like it. Do I like it? Maybe I like it. No, I don't really like it. So yeah, we're gonna not do that. So that's really the node here. I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm gonna plug that in there. We're just denoising. And that's that. So now, let's do one last test. We are going to move these guys into frame. And the past part 2 to clear up again so I can see it. So I can see when I'm moving stuff into and out of frame. Let's move you like there. That's white. Here is violet. Cyan. Green. Yellow. Blue. And we can move you again, I'm just holding down shift when I get close to fine-tune the motion. I just want a little strip. It's peeking through. There. And then you come through here like that, and then I can take all of you. Nope, all of you, and all of you, and just move you like there. So now, let us render this image. And I think this is pretty much, I'm going to have like some props or something maybe on the edges or something like that. But this is basically all the color manipulations, the fancy color manipulations we're going to need to use. So let's see what this looks like. With 50 samples, a glowing backdrop, semi-transparent, or translucent backgrounds. Oh, I already like how what this is going for. I already like how this looks. Now those aren't going to be permanent, because I remember we're going to animate those sliding side to side across the background as the scene plays out. So it'll be like a color strip, kind of going back and forth. It's going to look really cool, especially if it alters the color that much. That's why I left the strips in between, so you can see the original, what the true color is supposed to be. Green kind of makes it look yellowish. Blue and purple are kind of similar. Red is obvious, cyan's obvious, white's obvious. I may need the violet to be a little lighter and the green to be a bit darker. They're going to make violet lighter and green darker. And blue blue's pretty good. Violet lighter, green darker. And there's our denoised image. Looks good down here. We got rid of the streaks, so we just have a glow. We have our multicolored. You can still see the colors shining through. So I think I'm going to try that next, what I just said. Make the violet lighter and the green darker. And the blue only slightly darker. So I'm going to get the violet shader. Make you a little lighter. A little more on the red side. A little more saturated. No, not less saturated. Red. Something to be different. And I'm watching these two here. And now the green, I want the green to be darker. Do I want the green to be darker? Green to be darker. Oh, not just dark enough to be distinct from yellow, and I think that's good enough. Yeah, that looks pretty clear. Pretty good. If we make the white darker. Nah. red. Make the red a little darker. Not too much. To me, that looks good. So when we animate that at a later stream, that'll be good. We have about 15 minutes to go. So we have the glowing text. I'll be letting you guys figure out what that text is going to say. We got the panels. The color transparency is all set. They're ready to be animated. We have the spotlight. We just need the props on the side. But other than that, everything looks... I'll pacify that. Everything looks good. I think everything looks good. I'll be kind of hovering right around here, this area. Spotlight will be... I won't be interacting with the spotlight. My avatar will be overlaid over this animation, so it's just the spotlight only works on the stage. But it'll be like a little spotlight right there. I'll be somewhere here. We'll need some props on the side. What are we going to do on the side? Something that doesn't obstruct too much of the background. I'm thinking maybe, I don't know, just a vase or something. A vase thing might be a little cool. Maybe. We'll do that in a few seconds. What else could go there? I feel like a vase. Like a fancy vase. And that'll be, okay, yeah, that'll be a demonstration of making kind of a more complex shape. So yeah, let's do a vase. Let's do like a wide body with a wide lip kind of vase. And something kind of sticks out. Not too big, but still kind of tall. I want it tall and on the thinner side. Talking about a vase. Alright, so before we get carried away with that, I do want to take a quick detour to showing you this. So I'm actually going to mute that background because this is the revised Sunset Venom. And where am I? Okay. Revised Sunset Venom. So, we had the electric piano, and we had the regular piano, well, electric piano and regular piano, as the only two instruments that were really part of the song. I had the flute and the violin lines there, but they were just empty. So now I'm going to play this from the beginning. And we're just going to watch it play through. And you'll be able to hear as you see the notes pop up. So here we go. And let me know if you can hear it. Oh, I don't think you can hear that. Yeah, I can't hear it on the stream. Let's see. Speaker audio cap. Properties. Speaker audio cap. Try this instead. Oh, hang on. I know what happened. Audio cap. Let's do you. Let's try one more time. There we go. Okay. That should be better. There we go. Okay. That should be better. There we go. A little feedback loop there. All right. Let's try one more time from the beginning. Here we go. pattern was a bit off, because this first part, that's twice as long. I'll stop talking. Yeah, so like I said, the last bit of measures, the last 4 measures, are actually the first 4 measures of the piece, but they're over at the end because I want these notes to hold over, and it sounds weird if they're at the very beginning, because finale has some limitations with that. Yeah, so you have the chimes, you have the electric bass, you have the violin section, and you have the flute. So I didn't use the headphones I'm wearing now to compose this. I used my regular Bose speakers. So let me know if the balance sounds good, if the electric bass is too quiet, or if the flute is too loud, because those are the 2 key issues that I was running into. I had to turn the flute down, I had to turn the bass up. I don't know if I did it well enough. Okay, so now that segue is over. Now we're going over to back to Blender, and we got about 7 minutes left. So I'm going to. So short of animate, we're going to do the thingamajig. So let's go here. Let's get rid of render view. Let's put the cursor up here. Again, that's shift and right click, put the cursor up there. Now let's add a vase. So what kind of vase are we going to do? Let's do a cylinder. I'm going to do this kind of quickly. So, because I think most of what I've done, I've already gone over. So I'm going to do all this real quick. So have fun. Keep it up. Here we go. Cylinder. Now I want to add the cylinder. It's going to have, let's see, it's going to have 32 vertices. That should be good enough. That's good enough. So we're going to go this view. I'm going to go to this. Now I want to add, edit you, put you up here, put you here. Actually, no, I'll do that. I'll do scale like that. That'll be our vase. We'll do like that. That'll be the starting right there, and then we need, you're going to be the thin point right around here. So you are going to be expanding that. And we're going to do another one right here, right around midpoint, and you're going to expand like that. And that'll be our vase. This is a bit too like that. And we still have that on, so let's turn that off. This goes up like there, right there. And now we add our modifier of subsurf. Now we do 3 each. And now we do our additional, go right around over there. To that. We'll do another one on the other side. Now what this does by putting an extra one here is that it pinches the subsurf to be more of a point. And then we do this one here. Kind of like that. Do the same thing. Do I want to keep this round? Oh, I need one in the bottom. And though that's Control R. And I think I've talked about that before, but that's Control R. There. And now we need one for the inset because this looks kind of bad. So we need you. Press I for inset. Shrink it a little bit. Much better. And the same thing for up here. Now I'm going to right click and shade smooth. Up here we need one, and inset slightly right there. The vase, that looks a little too wide. Let's do here, that looks a little too wide and too tall. That's our vase. It's solid, but we could do something real quick. Let's duplicate you. Let's shrink you down a tiny bit. And I'll add a cube. Excusez-moi. And now we just bring that down here. So now here we apply our subdivision and we apply our Boolean. The difference between that and the cube, and we apply that. Now the cube we get rid of. Here we could bring you up here like that, bring you like that. I'm going to zoom in. Now this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to stretch out like, let's reset origin to the geometry, stretch it out like this, and like that, and going to, actually I'm going to undo that. There, so that looks good. So now here we're going to add a modifier. Now you saw me just apply the subdivision, and that's because this is going to be a throwaway part. So add the Boolean, subdivide the cylinder, and we can apply the Boolean. The Boolean is okay once you're sure Oh, I may have made a mistake. The order in which modifiers are listed here indicates the order in which they apply. And I may have just goofed and crashed Blender. But we'll see. I applied the Boolean after the subsurf, which again adds a billion vertices. So I really should have done the Boolean first and then the subsurf after. Actually, thinking about it, I could have done that a much simpler way. So, Blender's not responding. Blender's not responding. What can we do in the meantime? I don't want to close it out because I don't remember the last time I saved. But, you know, it's easy enough to go do what we did before. I'm going to try to close out. Let's go over to you. As I undo that. Just some technical difficulties, please don't mind us. As long and complicated as it is to apply a modifier, it's just as long and complicated to undo applying a modifier, which is what I'm trying to do right now. Because I just realized a much easier, simpler way to do that without using Booleans. I get in the habit of doing kind of the same trick over and over, and Boolean works so well, but I usually don't do it on objects that I also do subsurf modifiers on, for this exact reason. So, I'm going to do it a different way and avoid the whole duplicating process. So, stand by, enjoy the music. I haven't heard this music much today. And if you know what, if you have time, while we're waiting, I'm going to take another water refill break. So I'll be right back. In about 5 minutes, we'll refresh our water. See you in a bit. So it's almost ready. It's almost fixed. Just need to wait for it to finish undoing my mistake. I might do it for maybe another half an hour, just until this vase is finished. It's almost finished. I'm probably just going to duplicate the same one on the other side. And then I'll use this as a chance to show off another tab that's called UV editing. Now, UV editing is always a bit tricky for me to understand how to get it started, but once I do get it started, it's pretty fun. But in the meantime, I will tell you, I already told you that I revised Sunset Venom, which we walked through. Next 2 streams, I'm planning on having some good old, just philosophical musings. And then after that, we will start probably play a little piano, doing some piano stuff, or we'll jump into the animating. It depends on how I feel. If I feel like playing piano again, I might do that. But if I feel like just I can't wait, I get excited about this background and I just want to animate it, then I'll do that. And it looks like we are almost ready to, almost ready to go. The problem with using subsurf modifiers and whether you apply them or not is just every vertex of an object is stored as data and has its own set of metadata. And if you suddenly go from having 50 to 5,000, it takes Blender a little while to catch up. And if you have 5,000 and you're trying to just suddenly undo those 5,000 back to 50, it takes also a little more time. So the first thing I'm going to do is just get rid of that Boolean, get rid of that whole thing, because that's just messing it up, taking time. Technical difficulties. Okay, so what have we got on the agenda for next few times? Let me just look at my little plan here. So we've done Blender stuff. Oh, okay. That'll be fun. There's so many things we can do. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that Boolean. Okay, so now we're ready to go. We should be ready to go. So let me bring it back. And we'll bring the Sunset Venom back in. And I wonder, hold on. And I wonder, hold on. Oh, that's how I did it. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So now we're back to this, and we're gonna just delete that right away. So now we have our this. So I'm gonna jump right back into going crazy. This is what I should have done. Beautiful bowl. Beautiful vase right there. It's not hollow, but you only see the top half anyway. Alright, so material. What material do we have? Let's do new material. Let's add this vase. We'll do shader, and we'll go vase, and we'll do let's make it green. Go to you. Now we're gonna try to figure out if UV editing will work on this thing. So let's try. There we go. Okay. So I need color. Color. Where is UV unwrap? So now if you notice, these correspond to different panels on this side. So if this looks like if you were taking like an old elementary school paper cutout thing that comes in like the backs of cereal boxes, and you cut them out and you fold them in a certain way and you get like a 3D object. This looks like it could be used for that. That's not a coincidence. You can actually alter colors and you can make different things. Now I just need to figure out how to do that. But I think if we do we need to make an image first. So if we paint it, I did this before. Was there ever maybe I need to go into shading and make a texture. Bear with me for a few seconds as I try to figure out how to. There was something about editing. There's something that I am missing. Hey, there. If you just highlight the top, only the top part shows up. I just don't know how to get this into the actual colored version, because I know I did that before. I just can't remember if it's... Let's move it around. Maybe I need to open a new... Okay, so I need to open a new image. So I need to save something as an image first. Okay, I see how it works. Okay, so I need to save this color as an image somehow, and then upload that image as a picture to the background of this UV map, and whatever parts of this fall under that color will be that color. And then you can make alterations to that image and everything like that. So I need to save this color as an image first. So how do I do this? So I'm going to switch over to me first, because I think there's going to be some file showing stuff here. So just to be safe, just to remain anonymous, let's just save a picture. Just make a picture. I could probably do it on PowerPoint. Honestly, I'll just make a square PowerPoint slide, and that will be, make it a solid color, make it blank, and design, format background. Background will be solid fill. It will be the more colors. We'll do you. sure why that didn't work. Solid fill. Oh, that's why. Perfect. Okay, so now I save. Now I export or save as. Save this slide as an image, as a JPEG. Where do I JPEG? Save it to my desktop. I'll call this color. Export just this one. Okay, so now. Desktop color. Okay. And give me one brief. There we go. So what I did, I just saved this PowerPoint slide as a image, and then what's the word? What word am I looking? Words escape me. Saved as image, and then I just opened that image as up here. So I think now you should be able to take some images and maybe do texture paint. Where are you? Soften, smear. Oh, okay. Not UV editing. I can move these out here like that. No, I can't. It makes no difference. Now let me try something different. Real quick. I'll be back soon. Isn't this fun learning together? I thought there would be a way to... Oh. Is that not working? Missing textures. Why are you missing a texture? Well, we'll abandon that idea. Delete you. Let's just undo all of that, and we'll go back to just our regular shading. So save that. Okay, that was a little detour. I don't know really what I'm talking about when it comes to texture and UV editing, what needs to do. I don't do it that often, if I couldn't tell. There are a couple cool things, but every time I delve into that, it's like I'm figuring it out for the first time. So, I'm going to keep it like that, but I think I want to make this a glowing lantern. So I'm going to put a... let's make this darker. Let's make it darker so we know... Not too dark. A little more bluish. Darker. Like that. I like that color. Like that. And then we'll put two of them. Oh, that is enormous. Oh, that is gigantic. Oh, that is gigantic. Alright, scale you down. Put you like right there. That's a good size. Put you like this. Now where are you in terms of the floor? The floor is angled, so it's okay. Put you like there. Da, da, da. Make you a bit bigger. A bit. Yeah, a little shorter. A little smaller. A little smaller. Kind of like there. And then maybe a little towards the front. So like that. And we will actually angle you slightly to match the rest. Because you are angled like that, so you will be angled like that as well. Now we can see inside. Perfect. So now let's duplicate that. Put you over here, there. And I'm just eyeballing it. I don't need to be like completely identical or anything. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to add a point light. I'm gonna do that. Point light right inside. There. Right in the middle. And that light is going to be duplicated there in the middle. So we got two lights. So now let's see what that looks like lit up. So I want both of those lights to be like golden spotlights. So we'll use nodes. For that one we'll use nodes. So let's make, it's already bright light, let's make it 10. Make this other one 10. How's that look? They're glowing. Let's take you, and let's take you, and we'll braze you up a little bit. Down a little bit. Actually, I liked it where it was. So we'll keep you as you are. A little backlighting. I think it looks good, especially when it's denoised. Not really sure what I was doing there, but you know what? Let's do that. And then, just to make sure the whole thing isn't dull or anything like that, let's check with a render. So we'll render that, and I'll show you guys the render. It's a nice day outside. And we're in here. Oh well. About 4 minutes. Yeah, so this is pretty much it. Just to make sure the brightness is okay. Make sure that it's not too dark. Because I'm going by the strips in the back to show like how bright it's going to be normally. My only concern is that the stage and the vases might be too dark, so I might add a spotlight, or at least an area light on each of those. Because aside from what's inside the vase, there's nothing on the outside lighting it up. Yeah, I can see it's already going to be too dark. It looks good. Alright, so we can stop that there. Alright, so we're going to add lights. Let's add area light. I'm going to have it shine from the front, kind of like that. Over here. Another one, shine right there. So this we'll call phase left light. We'll call this phase left. We'll call this phase left spot. We'll call this phase right light. And phase right. And now phase right spot. Cool, phase left, phase right. Alright, so now a cool little trick. Whole bunch of little tricks. I'm going to take you and take you. I'm going to raise you up a little bit. Now, vase right light. I'm going to add a constraint. And I forget if I talked about constraints, but it limits stuff. So I'm going to constrain this light to always be pointing at that vase. So if I want to adjust the vase, or I want to adjust where the light is, I don't need to re-aim the light at the vase every time I reposition. It will stay locked towards looking at it. So I'm going to point towards the target by performing the smallest rotation necessary. Damp to track. Damp to vase right. And not in the X, the Y, the Z, X, Y, negative Z. So now negative Z, and I don't know the rationale for why it's any one of these 6 in particular, but you just gotta guess which one it is. So now, if I move the light, it's always pointing towards it. If I move the vase, it's always pointing towards it. So now I'm gonna do the same thing for the light. And now you're not constraining the object to be looked at. You're constraining the object that's doing the looking. So this is vase left now. Negative Z, just because the last one was. So now move the light around, you're fine. Move this around, you're fine. So now how does that look like here? So now I just need to, I'll go to shading. Nah, let's go here, like that, and let's go to the lights. Architecture, now let's do light, spot, and then light and spot will move you all to lighting. Vase and vase will move you to props. And text will move you to architecture, just to stay organized. So now the vase left and vase right lights, let's go to the light. Let's increase. We're going on the right, so let's start to 100 watts. Maybe 1,000 watts. Okay, so that's the issue there. So, what was it, 10? So I'm actually going to convert them into a spot. Spot. So I'll convert you into a spot. And you you, I'm going to make smaller. Reduce the angle right there to about 10 degrees. I'll make you 10 degrees. And I'll take you and I'll move you down a bit. So now, let's do 100 watts. Let's do 1,000 watts. Show the cone. Don't show the cone. How about 10,000 watts? And now you're starting to get light up, so that's too much light, so 10 watts. So instead we're going to use the nodes. And here we're also going to use the node. Let's do the strength of 10. 100 watts, the strength of 100. Would be a little too much, strength of 50. I want this vase to be lit up, but not so much that it makes what's inside look like it's not lit up. But it looks pretty good. It's pretty bright-ish. So that's 100 watts at 50 strength. So that means this one should be 100 watts at 50 strength. So now we can render. Now I believe there was a trick, and I forget what it was, but I think there was some sort of trick. I forget what the trick was. It was a trick to render only a certain portion of the screen. But I think that's pretty good. I'm not expecting it to be like the super bright kind of thing. We could, if we wanted to, increase the color of the world a little bit. But that takes away the effect of the light brightness here. So I'm going to render that, assuming that we're done. Compositing. Is there anything else we want to add to it? We could increase the brightness of the contrast. We could glare. We could do a glare if we wanted to. But I think we're good. So I'm going to render, assuming we're done building, and the only thing left is animating. Why is it not showing me render? Why is it not letting me render? Let's close out of you. Okay, let's try that again. Save. I saved. And now, render. OBS, work with me here. Come on, OBS, work with me here, please. Work with me, OBS. The render window is right there. The rendering. Why will you not work with me? There we go. Okay. There we go. So now we are looking at this image. And this is kind of, it's like how I listen, how I compose music, how I do animations, how I do images in Blender. Look at it, or listen to it, or watch it, assuming it's done, assuming it's perfect, and then try to find any way that it isn't. So in your mind, you're thinking, this should be done. Why is it not? And then try to find as many whys as you can. I'm not going to be super strict about that for this, because it's honestly not that much of a concern to me. It looks pretty good already, but that's just kind of how I live. When I'm really going for, like, trying to compose a song that I really want to try my absolute best on, or anything like that, render it and look at it as if it's done. And the only thing left is making things move. So that's what I'm looking at it for. Now, normally it is a bit faster than this, but my computer is also running my streaming software and my avatar software. So that's slowing it down. That's taking some of its GPU power. Normally, if you're on your own, it'll go a bit faster. And that is it. That is denoised. That is finished. The vase has a nice glare on it. It's lit up on the inside. It's not too dark. This outer thing is supposed to be dark. You get the spotlight in the middle. You got the glowing text to say whatever. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep the red. I'm probably going to change the red. We got the red panel, you got the blue panel, you got the yellow panel, you got the green panel, you got the cyan panel, you got the violet panel, you got the white panel. So I think, as a background, that looks pretty good. So I would say the next step, once we figure out the proper color for this and the proper words for this, is to actually start moving these panels back and forth in the background. And that's really the extent of the animation component, just moving the panels. That should be no more than one stream, if that. That should be just a single stream. So we'll be able to finish that later. And if I get a good idea to how to finish this, then I'll probably just do that next week and push off everything else. But I'm giving extra time to figure out how to do this, so assume that we won't work on it next week unless we have, like, really good ideas. And that is it. So, that should be it. That is it for this week. Next week, I said, we're kind of playing it by ear, or whatever I feel like doing, honestly. Hope you stayed hydrated. It's good to be back at the end of the month. I had a nice time off. I was able to revise this song. Not too long. Took maybe a day. Not the whole day either. It was fun. But yeah, a lot of stuff has happened. A lot of good stuff. Nothing bad happened. It wasn't bad family stuff. It was good family stuff. But even this, even for what I'm hoping to become more proficient at and do a little more regularly, something is in the works. Something is very far into its maturity. Very far ahead of where I hope to be. And in the next month, it should be ready to publicly show off. So I'm thinking it's September, something big will drop, something big will happen. And then in October, I think it's October. Yes, in October, something else big will happen. And I'm excited for it. The big stuff happening. Just gotta be patient. So I ask that you be patient with me, friends. But until next week, keep on making.